round in, they just save their worst performance for last? Is that the way you looked at it?
Oh, look, probably the best way to sum it up, if we're being honest, my whole convo with the boys was that, for the last 2 years, I wasn't involved with the boys in isolation last year, but a lot of people made a lot of sacrifice, a lot more than anyone else in the game, and some staff aren't here that have helped contribute to the good stuff, and some players aren't here that help contribute to it. And I feel, I think the rugby league community would agree that, we've done held a pretty good accountability of ourselves. But today was, we had players that took shortcuts, and then our behaviour on the field was not acceptable. And then, so a lot of hard work that's been done by them boys included as well, just can come tumbling down, and now you sort of feel 2 years of sacrifice and hard work, and you finish your last game in a manner that's not acceptable. And as the head coach, you've got to take the brunt of that responsibility.
When you say it's not acceptable, obviously Matt Lodge and...
I'm not going to single any person out. I'm not going to go into singling anyone out. We didn't prep well on Tuesday, which was our probably only really good day to train. It was a short week. There was... The 2 points weren't going to do anything for us. We didn't prep well. We didn't, as I said, we had people that looked to take shortcuts on the field, and then our behaviour was not to the level that it should be. And I just feel, it's disappointing. But today aside, I also commend the boys for the sacrifices that so many of them have made. A lot more than any other club in the competition, but it doesn't accept what we did today.
Yeah, I know you don't want to single anyone out, but is there issues that you need to address with certain players? There's been incidents a couple of times this year with guys getting heated.
Oh, look, well, what we saw today, when you see that happen, obviously those things have to be addressed. You can't just ignore it, because you certainly don't want it to happen again,
How much of a bitter taste does that kind of leave, considering the season that's been?
Yeah, look, that's the main disappointment for me is we've competed pretty well most of the time this year. We've conducted ourselves pretty well, I reckon, under, as I said, more difficult circumstance than anybody else. But today's performance, as I said, there's the club built a lot of credibility up over the last couple of years, and when you see what you see today, it sort of makes you feel a bit flat, to be honest.
What could you put that down to, maybe?
Oh, look, I could probably rattle off a number of things, but it's not going to solve any problems, me publicly talking about it. Yeah.
It's probably a bit early, but how do you sum up your season so far?
I probably don't want to talk about it now because of what happened today, but coming into today, we've got a fair idea where we're at and what we need to do to improve, and that's the key. That's the key for us, is knowing what we need to do to get better, and then obviously over the next 2 or 3 weeks we'll have our reviews and have some planning meetings, and then it's up to us as a staff and obviously me as the head coach to make sure we've planned correctly and get some things right in some key areas for our game to improve. So this time next year we are playing for much more than what we were.
Brownie, you mentioned how tough the last 2 years have been, but is there any end in sight? Like what happens now? Are you staying? Do you know?
Oh, well, there's no flights to New Zealand, so no one's going anywhere at the minute. And all the players have got their heads around that, and that's not, honestly, the way we performed today has got nothing to do with our situation. Our situation, as I said, the boys are conducting themselves well, and I said in the pre-match game that not once has the boys made a look for a reason or an excuse not to train well and do well. So where we are at the minute doesn't give us the reason for why we didn't play well today. And what's happening in the future over the next probably 3, 4, 5 days, I'm sure Cameron George and the NRL will probably have some sort of clearer view of what we're going to be doing. But as it stands at the moment, none of our New Zealand-based people can go home, which is unfortunate. We've got some staff that haven't had 2 years away from their kids, so it's unfortunate for some of the staff. The players have all got theirs here, which is good, so the players are in a bit of a different situation to some of the staff.
You just accept the fact that you might have to rip the Band-Aid off and just stay, at least pre-season is going to be in Australia?
Oh, well, what we need to do, Jake, is we need to have a spot where all the partners can go and say, I'm going to book my kid into school, one school for 1 year, not 4 schools in 1 year, and have some stability and rent a house and stay there for 12 months. That's what we need to do, and we need to train together. As a club, that's what we need to do, That's what we we need as a club, So how that looks at the moment, I'm not sort of involved in that, but that's my wish, whatever that is, that'll be. But all together in one spot for 12 months is what our club needs.
How's Ewan Aitken?
No, he's not very good. He's had hammy before, and he thinks it's pretty bad, so it's a bit unfortunate.